Alright folks, welcome back. This is gonna be the tutorial for do-it-yourself snowcat RC full function. I'm sure if you haven't seen the test drive, take a look at it. You'll see the functionality of it. I'll run it around here a little bit, but yeah, that also gives you some insight on how it functions and um, the movement of this vehicle. All right, so one of the problems, I had built this a while back ago, and it was only the threads in the back. So the threads in the back, it's fairly easy to put electronics in the back because there's a lot of space. There's a lot of dead space, especially when you take off this back. I don't know, the designer made this back to be easily removed, which I'm thankful for. I don't know exactly why, but he did make it, or he or she did make it for this back piece to be removed easily. And almost like on a constant basis, or maybe it was intended to store as storage for weapons or toys or other G.I. Joe figures or something, but there's a lot of dead space in here. This is where all the electronics are put in, as well as the battery. That's where I put it in here. One of the biggest things that kept me from building this prior to the 3D printing that's not popular, it was these threads. I couldn't figure out which ones to use or how to make them myself. So I was constantly on the hunt to find something that fits the scale of 1/18 on a snowcat. I finally came across this, and this is the piece that I took off of the original toy of it's called Santa Claus. It's a Santa Claus vehicle. It's a mail delivery truck. They're unfortunately fairly pricey. When I come across one that's cheap, when I say pricey, I'm talking about upwards of $150. So wanting to get the threads off of a $150 vehicle it's kind of detrimental. Besides the fact that I'm destroying something that people appreciate in its natural form out there. But once I come across one that's damaged and they're selling it for less than 150, then I try to get those threads because they're the perfect size, the perfect scale, the perfect length for the snowcat. Near perfect. I mean, it's almost like they took the snowcat threads and made this one off of that. Another thing that you might notice is this right here. So this is kind of a retainer for the threads. It kind of looks like a skirt for the snowcat. That comes from the hovercraft whale. That's, I believe, the engine cover. It's one of the pieces, but they're on both sides. What I found out that when in turning, it does put a lot of side pressure on those threads, and they do have a tendency to want to come off. And that's after like them running around in like hard concrete or carpet where it has a lot of friction on those threads on the bottom, so it does push it off to the sides just a tiny bit, just enough for it to get off thread. So that's why I put that, and once I put that, then it works perfectly fine and there's no problem there. So like I was saying, when I built it first, it was just rear wheel drive, and it worked as a tank, left, right, go forward, both of them forward and both of them back in an opposite direction when you wanted to turn. The only thing is that there was a lot of friction caused from the front wheels that didn't turn, and I couldn't figure out how to make these turn because it's very limited space. As you can see, the cockpit here, the drivers sit right in there. I mean, they pretty much, the cockpit takes all that space up, and these wheels are only attached by a tiny piece a tiny piece down here. So it's not like there's a lot of space down there to put any kind of servo, any kind of steering mechanism. So I had that problem. I finally came across two motors that were L-shaped. So they're L-shaped in design. So the motors sit here, and then the gear reduction comes up here, and then it goes outward. It goes horizontal. So that solved the problem, because now I could put that gearbox, those motors sit right here, and then the gear reduction comes out here, and then you have the drivetrain in here. So that solved that problem. Unfortunately, I don't remember what vehicle I got it off of, because I have a collection of vehicles and stuff that I take off and take apart. But so yeah, sorry about those lack of details. But if you come across it, it's L-shaped, and it's the one that I got. The bottom looks like this. The black portion is the actual gear reduction. As far as this one's concerned, you can tell it's not the same distance. What I do is take off, I grind away here and keep the faceplate and the wheels intact. And here you can see that this is going to be the driving sprocket. So you unscrew it, and then I superimpose the original Snowcat wheel on top of that. Once I insert a drive here. So that's a drive from a different vehicle. What vehicle? Again, I'm sorry about that. I just can't remember. But anything really would work with two engines, and up front 2 engines as well, unless you could figure out how to put in a steering mechanism down here. There's a lot of steering mechanisms out there. I don't really know if low profile ones, and also you're gonna if you do a steering mechanism back here, you're gonna have to compromise these here and a little bit more of the cab. I did, when I put this drivetrain, I did have to compromise a little bit of the seat, not enough where it's gonna make it look weird, or these figures aren't gonna be able to sit right. But I did, as you can see, there is a little bit compromise here. You could barely tell when they're sitting in there. You can tell back here, these are the two motors. Grinding away little by little and seeing if it fits, and then working it just over and over to just keep on testing it. That way you take away as little as possible and try to maintain the integrity of that cab. As well as you can see here, this is the switch for the lights. And then there's cab lights. The cab lights work very well at night. Let me see what else. I tried to give as much clearance in the bottom as possible. So I did remove this bottom piece down here, which I didn't see what purpose it served, but maybe back in the days the designers had some idea for that. But it has fairly good clearance. Take a look at the test drive, and you'll see the clearance and the functionality. The batteries down here, for the most part down here, it's trial and error, fitted as best as possible. Try to keep it away from the ground as best as possible, but there's no real finesse. It's really tearing things apart and figuring out what's going on without trying to compromise too much of the top portion of it. So the electronics and the battery go back here. This hatch, this is a fairly big battery, but it works fine. It has one electric speed controller. This is designed for tanks, and it's hobby grade, and also the chip is hobby grade. So the transmitter and the receiver are hobby grade. You can go with the cheaper versions of controllers, swapping a Walmart tank thread controller for that. But you just won't have the proportional steering, the proportional controls, and that comes in handy when you're working with something like tanks, because sometimes an engine or the power of that particular engine might be a little bit weaker, and you could do that fine tuning with the steering control that a proportional transmitter and receiver allow you to have. So these are going to be the throttle control and the steering control adjustments, and it just works better. I did take off the top because you know how these pins are fairly finicky. I'm getting ready to ship this one out. I sold it, so I might build another one, try to upgrade it a little bit if I can from lessons learned. I don't see how I can upgrade it and upgrade the functionality of this. Shocks is something that I wish I could put into this, except that it's kind of hard because of the limited space and how close these two threads are, how close these two sprockets are for the threads. There's no space in here. So maintaining the look of the Snowcat, as you guys and gals know, when I build these that are original, I try to maintain the aesthetics as best as possible, not to modify too much of the look in order for it to look like an original G.I. Joe. So, you know, my goal when I was little was like, wouldn't that be cool if we could play with G.I. Joe vehicles but remote control? So I'm kind of, you know, reliving and making that happen when I build these, to have fun in a different level. Back in the days, if you've seen my other builds, they're a little bit more updated G.I. Joe vehicles, like the Stinger and the one that shoots the Nerf, the Vamp that shoots the Nerf. Those are, you know, radically different. So, but when I work with an original, I try to maintain the aesthetics, just the look of the original G.I. Joes. So that's my goal when I build these. So I try to minimize the outward appearance. So on this one, you can see the skirt and the antenna. The skirt for the threads, and then the antenna. And that's pretty much the biggest modification you can tell from the outside. Oh, and also it's missing this front. But beyond that, a little bit color here, but that's about it. Beyond that, it's aesthetically almost the same. You might even miss those things if you weren't paying attention to it, or if you weren't an avid G.I. Joe collector. So yeah, just a little bit of the function. Excuse the dirt, it's been outside. So when I talk proportional steering, proportional throttle, this is what I'm talking about. I don't want to insult your intelligence, but sometimes, you know, there's a few of us out there that don't necessarily play with RCs. And the proportional means that we have control over the speed and also the turning radius. And that's usually found in hobby grade vehicles, hobby grade electronics. It's just a little bit more advanced, more control. The toys that you buy at Walmart, they're usually go, no go. They're starting to get better with the electronics and trying to make them more proportional, but most of the vehicles that you find are going to be go, no go. So you press it and it goes full speed. You have no control over the speed. And then you turn and it turns radical to the right and radical to the left as much as it can. You have no control. On this one, you could go slowly back, you could go slowly forward, you could slowly turn. So, and you know, one of the biggest things if you build this, if you only work the threads in the back, it's good. but like I said, these front wheels, they spin, they go the same direction as the back threads, because it just lessens the friction, and it helps immensely. All right, folks. Hopefully that helps you on your own builds. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Sometimes I do get distracted with life and just overall working on things. So bear with me, and if I don't answer quickly or timely, please have some patience. I'll do my best. So there you go. There you have it, the snowcat. Hopefully you can build your own or even upgrade it. And just use your imagination when you come across any kind of obstacles, any kind of problems, and I'm sure you can figure it out. And maybe you could build them better than me and give me pointers as well. All right, folks, take care and have fun out there.